problem and kind of see if we can find a relationship between the two things. So let's just go into definitions as usual. So let's start with the separation of ownership from control. So essentially what this is referring to is basically referring to where when you have publicly held corporations, so you have, like a publicly held corp in which, the shareholders, they have little or no direct control over management decisions. So there's that separation. So publicly held corporations in which shareholders do not have direct control over management decisions. Okay, perfect. So when you're talking about the principal agent problem, essentially that refers to, or also known as the agency dilemma. This occurs when one person or entity, which is the agent itself, they are able to make decisions and or take actions on behalf of another person or entity, so the principal. So this is when the agent makes decisions that impact or make decisions on behalf of a different person or entity, which would be called the principal. We have a spelling error over here. Let's just fix that. My bad. Okay, so now that we've defined our two terms, let's see what sort of relationship these two have to each other. So essentially, when you want to answer the question, how is the separation of ownership we defined earlier related to the principal agent problem, it's pretty simple. So the agents or managers or bosses or whatever you want to call them, the ones in charge, are able to pursue their own interests. So can pursue own interests rather than the interests of the principals. And you can think of the principals in this case as the shareholders. So this way, you have the managers acting on their own volition and, looking at the best interests for these business decisions rather than the interests of the firms and the shareholders. And that's kind of the relationship between the two. If there wasn't a separation of ownership from control, you'd have, shareholders having direct control over management decisions, and that would essentially exacerbate the problem we've seen below. So you need that separation where the agent is making decisions, independently, and so these decisions are independent from the interests of the shareholders or firms themselves. Thank you.